Jen Psaki is, do you know her? Probably you don't. Well, maybe you know her. You know, Peppermint Patty. She's the one that used to be the press person before KJP. She wasn't a bad press person. Actually, I thought she was better than KJP. KJP didn't quite have all the wires connecting upstairs. Jen Psaki, on the other hand, was pretty darn good. I mean, you got to be a hell of a liar, right, in order to do that gig and do it well, especially if you're working for Biden. And she knew how to lie right through her teeth. And so Jen somehow had bigger aspirations. This cracks me up. Why? Do these people that are in politics all want to be on TV? I mean, they all want to be us, right? I'm always, I've never understood this, frankly. Really and truly never understood this. I mean, you stay in your lane, I'll stay in mine. The performers are the performers, and the, political lackeys and, people that want to carry somebody's water, that's what they are, and that's all they should do. Because they're never going to be fully truthful. They're always trying to sell and spin. That's what they do. That's what their job is. That's what she's talented at doing. And people see through her in 2 seconds. That's why her show is totally bombing. Not to mention she can't hold a show. And when I say hold, I mean you got to have presence. You got to have style. You want to say what you want about Rachel Maddow. I know she's nothing to look at. I know she's conspiratorial. I know we don't like her. But I'm going to tell you this. On-air presence to on-air presence, she's got it going on. I mean, I don't like what she has to say, but she's actually decent at her job, and she leads you down a very, very long, narrow rabbit hole half the time, but she keeps you interested. This one, I'm not surprised. She's flopping big time in MSNBC prime time. Gosh, it probably sounded so good. I'm going to take over for Rachel Maddow. Let me see how I can do. And then she goes, whoop, like a rock, straight to the bottom. Granted, she doesn't exactly have the wind at her back because, well, I think everybody in the Democrat Party is pretty frustrated. You look at the polling numbers. What are they down to? 28% approval? This is unbelievable. Donald Trump keeps on climbing no matter what they throw at him. He keeps on climbing. And then you look at what's going on there with the Democrats, and they're a total disaster. Here, CNN will tell you. It's their own poll.
There's this new CNN polling out today that says quite a bit. Just 28% of Americans view the Democratic Party favorably. And the context of that is the lowest mark for Democrats in the history of CNN's polling going back to 1992. And for Democrats, they have a lot more work to do to win back favorability within their ranks, within the party, than Republicans do.
Yeah, you think? So, in other words, Trump is soaring. Trump's doing great. The Democrats are tanking. And so it's a tough time. I get it. If you're Jen Psaki, you got no personality. Nobody trusts you to begin with because you sat and lied through your teeth about Biden the entire time. And now you're taking over for the big leagues, Rachel Maddow, who only wants to work once a week. And somehow has worked out a deal where she's allegedly getting $25 million just to work once a week. Good work if you can get it, right? So Jen is plunging. Free Beacon just had a story on this. Her ratings are down something like 44%. Take a look at this. Wow, she's lost 44% of that audience. They used to tune in for Rachel Maddow, and they've all gone bye-bye. Her show is called The Briefing. Well, the show name enough is just enough to, that'll make you pretty tired and eyes glaze over. It sounds like it might as well be NPR. The Briefing averaged 1.1 million total viewers from its May 6th debut through July 3rd, down 44% from the 1.8 million that Maddow and actually the temporary host Alex Wagner managed to pull in during the 9 p.m. slot. Wow. Okay, you compare and contrast with Hannity, which is on at 9 p.m. They're getting 2.9 million. I mean, she doesn't even have a fighting chance. I could have told you that. MSNBC. I mean, it's like, how do these people pick talent? I don't know. Anyway, she's a former press secretary, as you know. That lackluster performance, Free Beacon writes, has added to MSNBC's financial woes, as the network already faced plummeting ratings and viewership for months amid mounting scrutiny over its left-wing reporting bias. MSNBC's parent company, Comcast, announced in November that it was cutting ties with the failing network. It wants nothing to do with anything over at MSNBC. Now, Psaki, for her part, has faced some backlash, they said, over her role in covering up former President Biden's mental decline while she served as White House press secretary from January 21 until May of 22, until she could get that prime TV gig. That's all she ever wanted to do is be on TV. Gosh, lady, you should have started as a reporter. Maybe you'd actually have some ethnics. Oh, maybe not. You know, ethics are a rare thing in this reporting industry. Here's Jen Psaki proving that, trying to say, don't you dare say it was some kind of cover-up. That might actually suggest that it was like Watergate level stuff. You better believe it was Watergate level stuff, even Jake Tapper. And he's not exactly any kind of person with any kind of moral high ground. Even he admits it was Watergate level stuff. Here's Jen.
I left in May of 2022, just for the facts here. And I have seen Biden once since then, when I took my daughter to the holiday party this last December after he had lost. And so I hadn't seen him in person during that period of time. I never saw that person, not a single time. And I was in the Oval Office every day that was on that debate stage. I'm not a doctor. Aging happens quite quickly. Were things that people saw during that period of time that were similar to that or would have been in a category of that? I don't know, possibly, right? And all these books are going to tell us.
Like, do you think that were they actively covering it up? Were they sort of in denial, or was that just a bad debate? Like, what is your read on that?
Well, this is what I mean about cover up is a very loaded term, I think.
Well, it means you knew that it was really bad and you're pretending otherwise versus you're deluding yourself, which I think is what people do a lot.
Well, I understand, but I still think it's like cover up is often like a crime, right? We're talking when people use that term.
They say it's worse than the crime.
People use that term as they relate to Watergate or the covering up of not sharing public information about a war.
Yeah, and I'm not accusing anybody of a crime.
I understand, but other people have used that term, and I think it's a bit of a dangerous term.
Touchy, woohoo, right? Peppermint Patty didn't like that line of questioning. She was going to shut that one down pretty fast. But let's face it, there's a reason people don't tune into her. It's very funny. I think it was People Magazine or Us Weekly, one of those, that quoted Rachel Maddow talking about how she was turning over the reins to one Jen Psaki. And Rachel had a very underhanded way of complimenting Jen, which wasn't really a compliment. She said something to the effect of, and I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but she said, oh, Jen Psaki will just kill it in this job. She's going to be so great. And I can tell you why she's going to be so great, because, you know, she's right inside the Beltway and she's like friends with all these people and she's going to get them all on the show. Whereas me, I'm way over there, you know, doing my own thing. And I kind of just, you know, I have a good relationship with my team, but I'm not out sort of whining and dining. And again, these are my words, not hers exactly, but this is the gist of it. I'm not whining and dining all these, you know, go-getters in Washington, D.C. Therefore, I'm not as plugged into that little clique. And Jen is, so that'll be great. And I'm like, wow, whoa, credit, Rachel. I got to get, you know, credit where credit's due. That was like, ow. That was like a knife right in the back of one Jen Psaki. Her point was, Jen Psaki is part of the establishment. And when you say that, when you're part of the establishment, guess what? Nobody wants to watch it. Nobody wants to see it because they know that you're just part of the lying machine that's going to lie to them some more. And that is in part, ladies and gentlemen, why her ratings are down, 44% from where they were during Rachel Maddow's days. So she never stood a shot. And now the question becomes, you know, if Jen Psaki can't hack it, then do they bring Rachel back? Here you are, you're Comcast. You're spinning this thing off. Good tax advantage to do that. You're going to spin it off. If you're a new shareholder and you're buying into this, it's all the cable entities. First of all, why would you buy it? I mean, seriously, why would you buy it? Because it's cable. And cable's dead and over. And unless you really come up with some clever way to reinvent it, I don't think you get a lot going on there. So just as an investor, I would not be that interested. This is not a growth stock, okay? This is not NVIDIA that we're talking about. This is going to be the dregs of what Comcast has that it no longer wants, that they are going to spin off into a company called Versant, trying to make it sound kind of spiffy, kind of French. And if you're an investor in that, I'd say, hey, Rachel, you better hightail it back. You're taking over for Jen. You want that 25 mil? Guess what? You're going to have to work for it 5 nights a week. I expect to see you. And you got to stop dissing the bosses. I mean, for goodness sakes, they fired everybody, including a bunch of members of her team. She didn't really complain about her team getting fired, but she complained about everybody else, suggested it was racism of all things. I mean, talking about biting the hand that feeds you, right? I wouldn't allow this. Here, remember?
An even bigger programming change is at 7 p.m., 7 p.m. Eastern, where Joy Reid's show, The Readout, ended tonight. And Joy is not taking a different job in the network. She is leaving the network altogether. And that is very, very, very hard to take.
No, it's not.
I am 51 years old. I have been gainfully employed since I was 12. And I have had so many different kinds of jobs, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. But in all of the jobs I have had, in all of the years I have been alive, there is no colleague for whom I have had more affection and more respect than Joy Reid. I love everything about her. I have learned so much from her. I have so much more to learn from her. I do not want to lose her as a colleague here at MSNBC. And personally, I think it is a bad mistake to let her walk out the door.
Oh, well.
It is not my call, and I understand that, but that's what I think. I will tell you, it is also unnerving to see that on a network where we've got two, count them, two non-white hosts in primetime, both of our non-white hosts in primetime are losing their shows, as is Katie Fang on the weekend. And that feels worse than bad, no matter who replaces them. That feels indefensible, and I do not defend it.
Of course, they were replaced by a very diverse group of people, but whatever, don't let that ruin a good story, right? It's wild. So I think she's actually at risk herself. Well, one of two things. They either bring her back and they say, bye-bye, Jen Psaki, or Jen, you can become like a contributor, which is really all she should be, right? She's got this in the beltway kind of knowledge. Let her come on and be a contributor. Do not let a woman host a show, for goodness sakes. I need some pizzazz. I need some personality. At least Rachel's got that going for her. I know you guys don't like her, but you know what? Again, credit where credit's due. So you bring Rachel back and you say, okay, you're going to earn that 25 mil. Or you say, Rachel, if you don't want to do this, we don't want you, okay? You're gone. Go do your little podcast. I'm sure you'll be successful at it in your own way, shape, or form, and leave us alone because we're not going to pay you 25 mil. And so I think there's going to be renewed financial pressure and renewed scrutiny on this company, as there should be, as it goes off and spins off and becomes public. As for the morning show, you know what? Those people are survivors. They're real survivors. They just keep coming back and coming back. I don't think they believe anything. I mean, they really don't. On the one hand, you had Joe Scarborough equating Donald Trump with Hitler while telling us it was the best Biden ever. Remember that one? And then the next day after the election, he's like, oh my gosh, this was a landslide. No, we haven't seen this thing since Reagan. And they hightailed it down to Mar-a-Lago on a plane. All I'm saying is Joe and Mika are survivors. They'll find a way to get through it some way, somehow. Maybe they'll take a pay cut. They'll probably have to take a pay cut. But they'll figure it out. Rachel, it's going to be one or the other. You either come back and you lead prime time and you earn that 25 mil, or you go. And then they can just populate the network with a whole bunch of has-beens or nobodies like Jen Psaki, Peppermint Patty. You can barely remember who she is, but she gets the job done and she reads the prompter and the lights stay on. That's what it's come down to. Reminder, if you guys haven't subscribed to 76 Research, it's my financial research company. I started it because it was so important to me that you get honest, legit financial research that isn't tainted by anything Wall Street wants you to believe because they get some DEI agenda or ESG agenda. I just want you to make money, okay? It's pretty darn simple. So does my colleague and co-founder Rob Horton. We put this together for you guys. Use code word dollar. We've got a market that has been on fire. I mean, the stock market is just doing great. It's incredible, right? I mean, you wouldn't know it necessarily if you were to talk to some of the people over on CNN. It's amazing to me. We were talking about the egg thing yesterday, right? Remember the eggs and how one of their contributors just didn't understand how the price of eggs over the last year, she kept saying it was up 27%. The anchor kept saying that too. And the guy was like, it was Scott Jennings. He's like, but wait a second. In the last 6 months, it's plummeted, absolutely plummeted. So why wouldn't you look at it for the last 6 months? Why do you have to look at it for the whole year? Well, we know why they have to look at it for the whole year. Yeah, they're not that bright, but they're also very politically biased.